The great ship Gentle Current floated dead in space. Its beautiful crystal walls, once shining like diamonds, were now black with burn marks. Holes the size of small buildings dotted its surface where enemy weapons had torn through. Inside the ship, Captain Veltar Moonwhisper stood on the bridge and watched his people die. The air was getting thinner. The lights flickered on and off. The ship's heart, its great power core, had been damaged 3 months ago. Since then, they had been living on emergency power. But emergency power was not meant to last forever. Moonwhisper looked at the numbers on his screen. 200,000 Zephyrians lived on this ship. They had been traveling to a new world, a place where they could build homes and raise their children in peace. The Zephyrians were a gentle people. They solved problems with words, not weapons. They had never needed to fight before. That was their mistake. The enemy had come from nowhere. 17 massive ships, each one bigger than 3 of the Gentle Current. The Harvesters, they called themselves. They were a nightmare that moved from star to star, eating entire worlds. They took everything, the metals, the water, the air, even the people. Nothing was left behind when they finished. The Harvesters had surrounded the Gentle Current while it was refueling at a space station. The station was gone now. The Harvesters had eaten it in 2 days. Now they waited around the Zephyrian ship like hungry wolves around wounded prey. "Captain," said his communications officer, a young female named Thaisara, "the children's section is asking for more air. Their recyclers are failing." Moonwhisper closed his eyes. They had already moved all the children to the safest parts of the ship. But safe was not safe enough when the whole ship was dying. "Tell them to reduce their numbers per room. Share the air as long as possible." It was a terrible order. He was asking families to choose who would breathe easily and who would struggle. But there was no choice. There had been no choice for weeks now. The enemy ships floated outside their windows like dark mountains. The Harvesters did not speak to them. They did not make demands. They just waited. They knew the Gentle Current would die soon. Then they would come aboard and take what they wanted. Moonwhisper had sent messages to everyone he could think of. The Galactic Council, their allies the Villani, even neutral traders who might help for money. The answers were all the same. Sorry, too far away, too dangerous, not our problem. The Galactic Council's message still burned in his mind. The Kepler 442 system is outside protected space. The Council cannot risk war with the Harvesters over one ship. Recommend immediate surrender to minimize casualties. Surrender, as if the Harvesters cared about casualties, as if they left anyone alive when they were done. "Sir," called out his weapons officer, though they had no real weapons to speak of. "The Harvesters are moving. 3 ships are getting closer." Moonwhisper looked at the tactical screen. The enemy ships were massive, covered in armor and bristling with guns. His own ship had mining lasers and construction tools. It was like bringing a flower to a sword fight. "How long until they reach us?" he asked. 2 hours, sir. 2 hours. After 3 months of dying slowly, they had 2 hours left. Around the bridge, his officers worked at their stations. They were good people, all of them. They had families in the lower sections of the ship. Children who would never grow up. Parents who would never see their grandchildren. All because the Zephyrians had believed the galaxy was a safe place for peaceful people. The communication station beeped. Thaisara looked at her screen and frowned. "Sir, I'm getting something strange." "It's a response to our distress call." Moonwhisper felt a tiny spark of hope. "From who? I don't know, sir. The signal is very weak. It's coming from the edge of the system, from empty space. Put it on speakers." Static filled the bridge. Then through the noise came a voice speaking a language none of them recognized. The ship's computer worked for several seconds to translate it. "This is the United Earth ship Retribution. We received your distress call. Help is coming. Repeat, help is coming. Hold your position." The bridge went silent. Earth? Moonwhisper had heard that name before, but only in whispered stories. Humans, they were called. A species from the dangerous parts of space that the Galactic Council refused to contact. The stories said they were violent and unpredictable. Some said they were still fighting wars on their own planet. "Sir," Thaisara said quietly. "Should I respond?" Moonwhisper looked at the enemy ships getting closer. What choice did they have? Send a reply. Tell them we have 200,000 souls aboard and limited time." The response came back quickly, in better galactic standard this time. "Understood, Gentle Current. We see the bad guys." ETA 15 minutes. "Stay calm and stay alive. 15 minutes?" Moonwhisper looked at his tactical officer. Is there anything on our sensors? No, sir. Nothing at all. But the voice had sounded sure, confident, like whoever was out there had dealt with problems like this before. The harvester ships continued their approach. They were close enough now that Moonwhisper could see the details of their hulls. Dark metal covered in spikes and weapon ports. Ships built for one purpose, destruction. 10 minutes passed. Then 12. The first harvester ship was only minutes away from docking. Then space tore open. It was not like the gentle opening of normal hyperspace travel. This was violent, angry. Reality split apart with a flash of light that made everyone on the bridge shield their eyes. Something black and angular shot out of the tier like a bullet fired from a gun. The human ship was smaller than the harvester dreadnoughts, but it moved like a living thing. It was shaped like a blade, all sharp edges and smooth curves. Its hull was so black it seemed to absorb light. And it was covered in weapons. More weapons than Moonwhisper had ever seen on one ship. "This is Captain Chen of the Retribution," came the voice again, clearer now. "Zephyrian vessel, stay exactly where you are. We're about to solve your harvester problem." The human ship did not slow down. It did not call for surrender. It did not try to negotiate. It opened fire. The weapons that came from the human ship were unlike anything in Moonwhisper's experience. Streams of light that moved faster than anything should move. Explosions that lit up the darkness like new stars. The sound of the weapons firing came through the ship's hull, a deep rumbling that felt like thunder. The closest harvester ship, the one that had been about to dock with them, simply disappeared. One moment it was there, the next it was a cloud of glowing debris. The other harvester ships tried to fight back. Their weapons were powerful, designed to crack planets. But the human ship moved like a dancer, twisting and turning through their fire without being touched. And every time it moved, more harvesters died. In less than 10 minutes, half the enemy fleet was gone. The rest were trying to run. "Gentle current," came Captain Chen's voice. "This is Retribution. Area is secure. Request permission to come aboard and render assistance." Moonwhisper looked around his bridge at his people's amazed faces. In 10 minutes, humans had done what the entire Galactic Council said was impossible. They had beaten the harvesters. "Permission granted, Retribution," he said, his voice shaking. "And, thank you. Don't mention it," came the reply. "That's what neighbors are for." Junior Communications Officer Thisiara had been working at her station for 18 hours straight. Her eyes burned from staring at the displays, but she could not stop. Every few minutes she sent out another distress call into the empty space around them. Every few minutes she hoped for an answer that never came. The gentle current was dying more each day. The power levels dropped lower every hour. The air recyclers worked harder and harder to keep up with 200,000 people breathing. The water purifiers had started making strange noises last week. Soon they would fail completely. Captain Moonwhisper had tried to stay positive for his people. He walked through the ship every day, visiting families, talking to children, promising them that help would come. But Thysara could see the truth in his eyes. He was losing hope too. The harvester ships waited outside like patient vultures, 17 massive vessels, each one a floating city of destruction. They had been there for 3 months just watching, waiting for the gentle current to die on its own. It was cheaper than fighting, and the harvesters always chose the cheap way. Thysara adjusted her headset and sent out another call. "This is the colony vessel Gentle Current calling any friendly ships. We are trapped in the Kepler 442 system. 200,000 civilians need immediate evacuation. Please respond." Nothing. Just the empty hiss of space. She had sent messages to everyone she could think of. The Galactic Council had replied once 3 weeks ago. Their message was cold and official. "Kepler 442 is outside Council protection zones. We cannot risk escalation with harvester forces. Suggest immediate surrender to minimize casualties." Surrender. What a joke. The harvesters did not take prisoners. They took everything else but never prisoners. The Villani Empathy Union had sent prayers. Actual prayers transmitted across space in their beautiful singing language. The prayers were lovely, but they would not fix the ship's dying heart or fill empty air tanks. Other species had sent similar messages. "Sorry, too far. Too dangerous. Good luck." Thysara pulled up the star charts on her secondary screen. Around them, space looked empty. The nearest inhabited system was 47 light-years away. Too far for anyone to help, even if they wanted to. But there were other things on the charts. Dark regions marked with warnings. Unexplored. Dangerous radiation. Quarantine zone. Do not enter. One section, not too far from their current position, was marked differently. Terran space, no contact authorized. Thesara had heard stories about Terrans, though most people called them humans. They came from a yellow star called Sol, from a blue-green world called Earth. The stories said they were violent and primitive. They fought wars on their own planet. They built weapons that could destroy cities. The Galactic Council had decided long ago that humans were too dangerous for normal contact. But other stories said different things. Traders who had dealt with humans illegally spoke of them as tough but fair. Some said humans would help anyone who asked, regardless of species or politics. Others said they were unpredictable, that you never knew if they would trade with you or shoot you. All the stories agreed on one thing. Humans were fighters. They did not run from battles the way civilized species did. They stayed and fought until they won or died. Thesara looked at the tactical display showing the harvester ships. What did the gentle current have to lose? They were going to die anyway. Maybe the humans would ignore their call. Maybe the humans would decide the Zephyrians were enemies and attack them too. Or maybe, just maybe, they would help. She changed the direction of her transmission array. Instead of broadcasting in all directions, she aimed it toward the region marked Terran space. It was a long shot. The signal would take hours to reach human territory, if there were any humans there to receive it. "This is the Zephyrian colony vessel Gentle Current," she said into her microphone. "We are trapped by hostile forces in the Kepler 442 system. 200,000 civilians are in immediate danger. If anyone receives this message, please help us. We have children aboard." She sent the message and leaned back in her chair. Now there was nothing to do but wait. Hours passed. The ship's situation got worse. A section in the lower decks lost power completely. Families had to move to other areas, crowding together in spaces too small for so many people. The medical bay reported more cases of breathing problems as the air got thinner. Captain Moonwhisper came to the communication station near the end of Thesara's shift. He looked tired. His normally perfect uniform was wrinkled and his hands shook slightly from exhaustion. "Any word?" he asked, though he asked the same question every few hours. "Nothing yet, sir," Thesara replied. She did not tell him about the message to human space. It seemed too much like false hope. Moonwhisper nodded and patted her shoulder. "Keep trying. Someone out there might hear us." He walked away to check other stations. Thesara watched him go, then turned back to her displays. The power levels had dropped another 2% while she was talking. Her console beeped. For a moment her heart jumped. Then she saw it was just a routine system check. The computer was making sure all the communication equipment still worked. She was about to turn back to her regular duties when another beep sounded. This one was different. This was an incoming message. Thesara's hands flew over her controls. The signal was weak and coming from very far away. It was not using normal galactic communication protocols either. This was something older, more primitive. Electromagnetic radiation instead of quantum entanglement. The computer worked to decode the signal. The language was completely unknown. The translation software struggled with it, pulling from every linguistic database in its memory. Finally, words appeared on her screen. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Ship Retribution. We received your distress call. Hang tight. Help is coming." Thesara stared at the message. Humans. They had actually answered. She played the message again to make sure she had translated it correctly. The voice was female, speaking in a language that sounded harsh but confident. The tone was not the formal politeness of most galactic communications. It was direct, almost casual, but what did hang tight mean? The computer was not sure about that phrase. Thesara looked around the bridge. Should she tell Captain Moonwhisper immediately? Should she try to respond first? The signal had taken hours to reach them, which meant the humans were very far away. Even if they were coming, how long would it take? She decided to respond first. If this was some kind of mistake or joke, she did not want to give the captain false hope. "This is Gentle Current responding to human vessel retribution," she transmitted back toward Terran space. "Confirm you received our distress call. Are you really coming to help us?" The answer came back faster than she expected. Much faster. That was impossible unless... "Gentle Current, this is Retribution. Confirm we are en route to your position. ETA approximately 6 hours. We see 17 hostiles surrounding you. Can you hold out that long? 6 hours? If they were 6 hours away, that meant they were already in the outer system. How had they gotten so close so fast? Thisara's hands shook as she replied. We can hold out. Please hurry. We have families aboard. Copy that, gentle current. We're bringing friends. The cavalry is coming. Cavalry? Another word the computer could not translate properly, but the meaning seemed clear enough. Thisara stood up from her station and walked quickly to Captain Moonwhisper. He was studying a damage report with his chief engineer. Captain, she said, trying to keep her voice steady, I need to speak with you privately. Moonwhisper looked at her face and immediately set down his reports. They walked to a quiet corner of the bridge. What is it? He asked. We got an answer to our distress call, Thisara said. From humans. The captain's eyes widened. Humans, are you certain? Yes, sir. They say they're 6 hours away. They know about the harvester ships. Moonwhisper was quiet for a long moment. What do we know about humans? The stories say they're dangerous, violent. The council forbids contact with them. And what else do the stories say? Thisara thought about the illegal traders and their whispered tales. Some say they help anyone who asks. Some say they're the best fighters in the galaxy. Moonwhisper looked out at the harvester ships through the bridge windows. We need fighters right now. Send a reply. Tell them we accept their help. Thisara nodded and returned to her station. She sent the message and then sat back to wait. 6 hours until help arrived. If the humans were telling the truth. If they were really coming. If they could actually fight 17 harvester dreadnoughts and win. Outside the windows, the enemy ships waited in the darkness, patient as always. But for the first time in 3 months, Thisara allowed herself to hope. Help was coming from the void. The space around the gentle current had been quiet for 3 months. The only movement came from the 17 harvester ships as they slowly circled the dying Zephyrian vessel. Like sharks around wounded prey, the harvesters were patient. They knew their enemy was helpless, so they waited for the ship to die on its own. That patience was about to cost them everything. Captain Veltar Moonwhisper stood on his bridge, watching the countdown timer that Thisara had put on the main screen. 2 hours until the humans arrived, if they really were coming. If this was not some cruel mistake. The harvester ships had noticed the Zephyrian communications with someone outside the system. 3 of their largest vessels had moved closer to the gentle current, ready to stop any escape attempt. Not that the dying colony ship could go anywhere. Its engines had been dead for weeks. Sir, called his tactical officer, the lead harvester is powering up weapons. They might be planning to finish us now. Moonwhisper felt his heart sink. After all this waiting, after the tiny spark of hope from the human message, were they going to die just hours before help arrived? All hands prepare for emergency evacuation to the center sections, he ordered. It would not save many lives, but it might save some. Then space exploded. Reality tore open like fabric being ripped in half. The hyperspace jump was violent and angry, nothing like the gentle transitions that civilized ships used. A massive tear appeared in the darkness, glowing with energy that hurt to look at. Something black shot out of the tear like a bullet fired from a gun. The human warship was smaller than the harvester dreadnoughts, but it moved with deadly grace. Its hull was so dark it seemed to swallow light. Every line of its design spoke of one purpose: war. It bristled with weapons that Moonwhisper had never seen before. Weapons that looked like they belonged in nightmares. Gentle current, came a voice over the communications, speaking in accented but clear galactic standard. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Retribution. Sorry we're late. Traffic was murder getting here. The human ship did not slow down. It did not call for surrender or try to negotiate. It simply opened fire on the nearest harvester dreadnought. What came out of the human weapons was unlike anything Moonwhisper had ever seen. Streams of metal moving so fast they glowed white-hot. Explosions of light that turned night into day. Energy beams that cut through harvester armor like it was made of paper. The first harvester ship died in seconds. One moment it was a kilometer-long mountain of metal and weapons. The next moment it was expanding gas and glowing debris. The other harvester ships reacted with shock. They had never faced real resistance before. Every species they had encountered either ran away or died quickly. But this small human vessel had just destroyed one of their most powerful ships without even slowing down. They opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons that could melt mountains fired at the human ship. Missile swarms that could level cities launched from multiple directions. Energy weapons that had cracked planets focused on the tiny black vessel. The human ship danced through it all. It moved like a living thing, twisting and spinning through the enemy fire. Its hull glowed with energy shields that deflected shots that should have destroyed it. Point defense systems filled space around it with a web of laser fire so thick it looked solid, destroying incoming missiles before they could hit. And while it danced, it killed. Every few seconds, another harvester ship died. The human weapons were precise and deadly. They found weak spots in armor that other species did not even know existed. They punched through shields that had protected the harvesters for centuries. Retribution, Moon Whisper called over the communications. There are too many of them. You should run while you can. Captain Chen's laugh came through the speakers, and it was not the sound of someone who was afraid. It was the sound of someone who was enjoying herself. Run, Captain, we haven't even started fighting yet. As if her words were a signal, space tore open again. And again. And again. More human ships emerged from hyperspace. They were different sizes and designs, but they all shared the same predatory appearance. They all moved with the same deadly grace, and they all carried weapons that turned harvester dreadnoughts into scrap metal. The new ships spread out in a perfect formation, surrounding the harvester fleet. The enemy found themselves trapped between human vessels that seemed to appear and disappear at will, striking like ghosts and vanishing before return fire could find them. "This is Admiral Martinez aboard UES Vengeance," came a new voice, deeper and older than Captain Chen's. "Harvester fleet, you have 30 seconds to surrender or withdraw from this system." The harvester response was to concentrate all their remaining ships and charge directly at the Retribution. It was a desperate move, but they still had numbers on their side. 12 ships against 6 humans. It was not enough. The human ships moved like they were controlled by one mind. They focused their fire on single targets, destroying them quickly before moving to the next. Their weapon systems worked together, creating crossfires that the harvesters could not escape. One by one, the harvester dreadnoughts died. Some tried to run. The humans hunted them down with casual efficiency. Some tried to hide behind asteroids. The human weapons found them anyway. In less than 20 minutes, the battle was over. 17 harvester ships had become 17 clouds of glowing debris. Not one human vessel showed even minor damage. The bridge of the gentle current was completely silent. Moon Whisper and his crew stared at the tactical display, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. The harvesters had been unstoppable for generations. They had destroyed entire civilizations. The Galactic Council feared them so much they would not even try to fight them, and 6 human ships had just wiped them out like they were annoying insects. "Gentle current," came Captain Chen's voice again, now sounding almost bored. "This is Retribution. Area is secure. We're detecting massive damage to your vessel and life support failures. Request permission to come aboard and render assistance," Moon Whisper found his voice. "Permission granted, Captain Chen, and thank you. I don't know how to thank you." "Don't mention it," she replied. "That's what neighbors are for. We'll have you fixed up in no time." The human ships moved closer to the gentle current. As they approached, Moon Whisper could see them more clearly. They were covered in scars from old battles. Their hulls showed the marks of weapons fire and impacts from debris. These were not new ships. These were veterans. "Captain," Thaisara said quietly, "I'm getting communication intercepts from the fleeing harvester ships. They're sending warnings to their main fleet. They're calling humans the demons from the void, and telling everyone to avoid Terran space." Moon Whisper nodded. After what he had just seen, he could understand why. But the humans had come to help. They had risked their own lives to save complete strangers. Whatever else they were not demons. They were angels of war, sent to protect the innocent. The Retribution moved alongside the gentle current, and Moon Whisper could see smaller human ships launching from its docking bays, repair ships and medical vessels coming to help his people. "All hands," he announced over the ship's communication system. "Prepare to receive human assistance teams. After 3 months of darkness, the light has finally come." Through the bridge windows, he could see human ships moving with purpose around his vessel. They worked with the same deadly efficiency they had shown in battle, but now that efficiency was focused on saving lives instead of taking them. For the first time in 3 months, Captain Moonwhisper allowed himself to believe his people were going to survive. The humans had kept their promise. Help had come from the void. The docking tube connected with a gentle thump that Captain Moonwhisper felt through the deck of the gentle current. After 3 months of silence, the sound of another ship linking to theirs was the most beautiful noise he had ever heard. He stood in the main docking bay with his senior officers, waiting to meet the humans who had saved them. Part of him was nervous. All the stories about humans made them sound dangerous and unpredictable. These were the same beings who had just destroyed 17 Harvester dreadnoughts in 20 minutes. What if they decided the Zephyrians were a threat too? But they had come to help. They had risked their own lives fighting overwhelming odds to save complete strangers. That had to mean something. The airlock hissed open and the first human stepped through. She was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing gray combat armor that made her look like a walking tank. Her helmet was tucked under one arm, revealing short dark hair and brown skin marked with small scars. Her eyes were sharp and alert, constantly moving as she scanned the docking bay for threats. This had to be Captain Chen. Behind her came 5 more humans, all wearing similar armor and carrying equipment. They moved with smooth efficiency, like soldiers who had worked together for years. But when Captain Chen removed her helmet completely and looked at Moonwhisper, her expression was not the cold face of a warrior. She was smiling. "Captain Moonwhisper, I presume," she said, offering her hand in what Moonwhisper remembered was a human greeting gesture. "I'm Sarah Chen, UES Retribution. Sorry it took us so long to get here. Had to stop for fuel on the way." Moonwhisper carefully took her hand. Human hands were warm and strong, with thick fingers that could probably crush his delicate Zephyrian bones without effort, but her grip was gentle and careful. "Captain Chen," he said, "I cannot express our gratitude. You saved 200,000 lives today." "Just doing our job," she replied. "Now let's see about fixing your ship. My engineers tell me your power core is about to die, and your life support is running on fumes. We can fix that." She gestured to her team. "This is Chief Engineer Rodriguez, Medical Officer Park, Systems Specialist Liu, and Communications Expert Jackson. Oh, and Sergeant Thompson handles security, but I don't think we'll need him for that." The humans nodded politely to Moonwhisper and his officers. They were all different sizes and colors, but they carried themselves with the same quiet confidence as their captain. "We brought supplies," Captain Chen continued. "Power cells, air recyclers, medical equipment, food synthesizers, whatever you need to get your people healthy and your ship moving again." "You would do this for strangers?" asked Moonwhisper's second officer, Commander Sylvan. "We can offer very little in payment." Chief Engineer Rodriguez, a stocky man with graying hair, laughed. "Payment? Lady, you think we came all this way for money? We came because people were in trouble." "But why?" Sylvan pressed. "What do you gain from helping us?" The humans looked at each other, and Moonwhisper saw something pass between them. Not words, but understanding. They had dealt with this question before. "Because that's what you do," Captain Chen said simply. "You help. You don't ask about politics or profit margins when someone's dying. You just help." Medical Officer Park, a young woman with kind eyes, stepped forward. "Captain Moonwhisper, we need to check on your people immediately. Our scanners show dangerous levels of oxygen deprivation throughout your ship. People could start dying soon." "Of course," Moonwhisper said quickly. "Commander Sylvan will show you to our medical bay." As the group moved through the corridors of the gentle current, Moonwhisper watched the humans' reactions to his dying ship. They did not show disgust or pity. Instead, they rolled up their sleeves and got to work. Chief Rodriguez immediately started examining damaged power conduits. "This is good engineering," he muttered to himself. "Different from ours, but solid work. We can fix this." Specialist Liu was already connecting her equipment to the ship's computer systems. "Your software is amazing," she told Thaisara, who was showing her around the communication station. "So elegant. We could learn from this." They worked with the same deadly efficiency they had shown in battle, but now that efficiency was focused on saving lives. Human repair teams spread throughout the ship, carrying equipment and working alongside Zephyrian engineers who had given up hope weeks ago. In the medical bay, Dr. Park examined Zephyrian patients with gentle care. The human medical equipment was different from theirs, but it worked. Within hours, children who had been struggling to breathe were sitting up and laughing. "Your people are remarkable," Moonwhisper said to Captain Chen as they walked through a corridor where human and Zephyrian technicians worked side by side. You fight like demons, but you heal like angels. Chen shrugged. We've had a lot of practice at both. Earth's not exactly a peaceful place. We learned to fight because we had to, but we also learned that fighting's only worthwhile if you're protecting something. They reached the ship's central garden, a large space where the Zephyrians had tried to grow food and maintain their connection to nature. The plants were dying from lack of proper light and air, but human technicians were already installing new systems. A group of Zephyrian children had gathered to watch the humans work. They whispered among themselves, pointing at the strange aliens who had saved them. One little girl, braver than the others, approached Sergeant Thompson as he adjusted an air recycler. "Are you really from Earth?" she asked in the high musical voice of a young Zephyrian. Thompson, a large man who looked like he could wrestle a battleship, knelt down to the child's level. "Yes, little one. From a blue world with big oceans and green trees. Are there really wars there?" Thompson was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes. But we try to make sure the wars don't hurt people like you. That's why we have soldiers, to keep the bad things away from the good people." The girl nodded solemnly, then suddenly hugged Thompson's armored leg. "Thank you for saving us." The big sergeant's eyes went soft. He gently patted the child's head. "Anytime, kiddo. Anytime." Moon Whisper watched the scene and felt something shift in his understanding. These humans were warriors, yes. They carried weapons and fought battles that would terrify most civilized species. But they were also protectors. They had crossed empty space to save people they had never met. "Captain Chen," he said, "when word of this spreads, others will ask you for help. The galaxy has many species that suffer under the harvesters and others like them. What will you tell them?" Chen looked around at her people working alongside his, human and Zephyrian hands building something better together. "We'll tell them the same thing we told you. Help is coming. Nobody stands alone anymore." 3 days later, the gentle current was running at full power for the first time in months. The air was clean, the lights were bright, and the ship's engines hummed with renewed life. Children played in corridors that had been dark and silent. Families shared meals from food synthesizers that actually worked. As the human ships prepared to leave, Captain Moon Whisper stood in his docking bay once more. Captain Chen and her team were getting ready to return to their vessel. "Where will you go now?" Moon Whisper asked. "Wherever we're needed," Chen replied. "Our long-range sensors are picking up distress calls from 3 different systems. Looks like the harvesters have been busy. And you'll help them too?" "That's the plan." Chen put her helmet back on and sealed her armor. "Captain, you and your people are welcome in Terran space anytime. Consider yourselves friends of humanity." She paused at the airlock. "Oh, and Captain? When people ask you about today, tell them the truth. Tell them that Earth's children don't abandon their neighbors. Tell them help will come from the void." The humans left as quickly as they had arrived, their ships disappearing into hyperspace to answer other calls for help. But they left behind more than just working equipment and healthy people. They left behind hope. Word would spread across the galaxy about the day humans had emerged from their quarantined space to fight monsters. About warriors who asked nothing in return for salvation. About neighbors who traveled across the stars to help strangers. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had arrived. And everything was about to change. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler 442, the galaxy was a different place. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Retribution, reading reports from across known space. Her ship was no longer alone in the void. Around her, 17 other human vessels moved in formation, responding to distress calls that came in every day now. "Captain," called her communications officer, "we're getting another priority signal. The Altarian Trade Federation is under attack by the Crimson Syndicate. 12 civilian stations, about 500,000 people." Chen nodded. "Plot a course. How long to get there?" 4 hours at maximum burn." "Do it." She turned to her tactical officer. "Send word to Admiral Martinez. Tell him we need the heavy fleet for this one. The Crimson Syndicate uses stolen military hardware." As the Retribution jumped to hyperspace, Chen thought about how much had changed since that first rescue mission. The story of the humans who had emerged from the void to fight the harvesters had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every species, every world, every space station had heard about it. The reactions had been mixed. The Galactic Council had been furious at first. How dare these primitive humans interfere in galactic affairs? How dare they use weapons that violated 17 different peace treaties? The Council had sent official protests to Earth, demanding that humans stop their aggressive expansion immediately. Earth's response had been simple. We're not expanding. We're helping. If you don't like it, help them yourselves. The Council had no good answer to that. They had spent centuries avoiding conflicts, passing laws about what weapons were acceptable and negotiating with criminals. They had never actually protected anyone. Other species had reacted differently. The Zephyrians had become humanity's first official allies, offering their advanced computer technology in exchange for protection. The peaceful Velani had opened their space to human ships, grateful for someone willing to fight the predators that had terrorized them for generations. But the most important reaction had come from the victims. The oppressed species, the terrorized colonies, the forgotten outposts that the Council had written off as acceptable losses. They had started sending messages to Earth, desperate pleas for help, offers of friendship, promises of alliance, and humanity had answered every call. The Retribution dropped out of hyperspace near Altair Prime to find a battle already in progress. The Crimson Syndicate had brought a full fleet this time, 30 ships of various sizes, all bristling with stolen military weapons. They were attacking civilian stations that had no defenses beyond basic shields. "This is Captain Chen of the United Earthship Retribution," she broadcast on all frequencies. "Crimson Syndicate vessels, you are attacking protected civilians. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The lead Syndicate ship responded with weapons fire. Chen sighed. "Why do they always choose the hard way?" "All ships engage hostile targets. Protect those stations." The battle was fierce but short. The Crimson Syndicate had numbers and heavy weapons, but they fought like pirates. Every ship for itself, no coordination, no real strategy. The human fleet moved like a single organism, their ships working together with precision that came from years of fighting as one. Within an hour, the surviving Syndicate ships were fleeing toward the edge of the system. The civilian stations were safe. "Retribution, this is Station Commander Veltash," came a transmission from Altair Prime. "Thank you. Once again, humanity has saved lives that others would have written off," Chen smiled. "Just doing our job, Commander. Earth stands with its friends." Later, as the human fleet regrouped and prepared for the next crisis, Chen received a priority message from Admiral Martinez aboard the Vengeance. "Sarah," the Admiral's weathered face appeared on her screen. "We need to talk. I just got word from Earth Command. The Galactic Council is calling an emergency session. They want to discuss the human problem." Chen raised an eyebrow. "Are we a problem now?" "According to them, we're disrupting the balance of power, making other species too dependent on us, encouraging them to resist authority instead of following proper diplomatic channels." "You mean encouraging them to fight back instead of dying quietly?" Martinez nodded grimly. "That's about it. The Council is scared, Sarah. For centuries, they've maintained control by convincing everyone that big conflicts were too dangerous to fight. We've proven that's not true." Chen looked out at the stars around them. In the distance, she could see Altarian repair ships working on the damaged stations, families who would go home tonight because humans had decided to help. "What does Earth Command want us to do?" she asked. "Keep doing what we're doing." The President was very clear about that. "But they want us to be ready for political consequences. The Council might try to organize a coalition against us." "Let them try," Chen said. "How many species are going to join a coalition to stop the people who protect them?" Over the following weeks, the answer to that question became clear. The Galactic Council did try to organize opposition to humanity's interference in galactic affairs. They called humanity dangerous. They said human weapons violated peace treaties. They claimed that human involvement would lead to galaxy-wide war. Very few species listened. The Zephyrians publicly declared their support for humanity. The Velani opened their borders to human ships and offered to share their medical technology. The Altarian Trade Federation signed a mutual defense treaty with Earth. Dozens of smaller species followed their lead. Even some members of the Galactic Council itself began to question the old ways. When the Harvester fleet attacked the Council's own colony on New Geneva, it was human ships that arrived to drive them off. The Council's own fleet was 3 days away, following proper diplomatic protocols. Captain Chen stood in the observation deck of Starbase Harmony, humanity's first major construction outside the Sol system. Through the large windows, she could see ships from dozens of different species docking and departing. Zephyrian crystal hulls mixed with Villani organic shapes and human angular designs. "Quite a view," said a familiar voice behind her. Chen turned to see Captain Moonwhisper approaching. The Zephyrian looked healthier than when she had first met him, and his ship had been completely rebuilt with a combination of Zephyrian and human technology. "Captain Moonwhisper." Chen smiled. "I heard you were taking command of the new Joint Task Force." "Indeed. 12 ships from 6 species, all working together to protect civilian populations. It would not have been possible without your people showing us the way." They stood together, watching the busy traffic around the starbase, ships arriving with supplies, others departing on patrol missions, still others docking for repairs after battles with pirates and predators. "Do you ever regret it?" Moonwhisper asked. "Your people could have stayed in your own space, safe and hidden. Instead, you chose to help strangers and make enemies of the powerful." Chen thought about that. It was true that humanity had made enemies. The harvester fleets now actively hunted human ships. The Crimson Syndicate had put bounties on human captains. Several corrupt governments had declared humanity a terrorist organization, but they had also made friends. Real friends, who would fight beside them when the time came. They had built something new in the galaxy, an alliance based not on politics or trade, but on the simple idea that good people should help each other. "No regrets," Chen said finally. "This is who we are. This is what we do. We protect our own, and everyone who asks for protection becomes our own." A new alarm sounded throughout the starbase. Another distress call, another crisis somewhere in the galaxy. Chen's communicator buzzed with orders from Fleet Command. "Duty calls?" Moonwhisper asked. "It always does." Chen headed toward the docking bays where her ship waited. "But that's okay. As long as there are people who need help, Earth's children will be there to give it." The Retribution launched from Starbase Harmony, along with 6 other human ships and 4 vessels from allied species. Their destination was a system where slavers were attacking refugee ships. It would be dangerous and some of them might not come back, but they would go anyway. Because that was what you did when people needed help. You went. As the fleet jumped to hyperspace, Chen thought about a conversation she had had with Admiral Martinez the week before. He had told her about intelligence reports suggesting that the major galactic powers were planning something big. A coordinated effort to stop humanity's expansion once and for all. "Are you worried?" she had asked. "No," Martinez had replied. "Let them come. They'll learn the same lesson the harvesters did. Earth's children don't fight fair, and we don't fight alone." Looking around at the mixed fleet accompanying her ship, Chen understood what he meant. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had offered it friendship, and when the inevitable confrontation came, they would not face it as lone wolves from a distant star. They would face it as part of something larger, something better, something that cared more about protecting the innocent than following the rules. The galaxy had bullies who preyed on the weak. It had always had them, but now it also had guardians who came from the void when called, and the guardians were just getting started.